I've been hearing people over these weeks talking about how when Iran is free, they're going to invest, they're going to buy property, that they're going to do all these things in Iran. One thing I haven't seen brought up yet is I think there's a danger in that I've seen elsewhere in the world where nations like the China and Russia have brought things up en masse, especially in places which are vulnerable, which Iran is going to be, especially in the beginning. And Iran will also be seeking money from investments as well, I'd expect. I am concerned, and I haven't seen it mentioned yet, that Iran will be very vulnerable during that time to hostile or at least forces that are detrimental to the Iranian people in Chinese corporations, Russian corporations, as well as Chinese and Russian people. If you look in cities around the world, London, New York, Singapore, all these places have massive problems with massive buyouts from Chinese persons, Russian persons. There are dead zones in London now because they've just been brought out. And I'm concerned that this hasn't been mentioned yet because I think this is something that people will need to have eyes on and policies for right from the beginning.
I think we're going to have the opposite problem because in Iran, the Iranian people are so suspicious of the Chinese and Russians that we might have we might have a problem convincing them that they could have at least a little bit of a investment in Iran. That is going to be the bigger challenge. The Iranian. So I mean, you're right to be concerned about that. I do think that once Iran is open for capital investments inside Iran, the national security will obviously be a huge part of the calculation. I do, especially from countries that, private investment is not as private, right? Like it's very connected to the state, and is a tool for is a tool for state influence. It's not just like an innocent, like I'm here to make money
Yeah.
kind of like investment kind of stuff. So I think a lot of like, I think the Iranian people, the government in Iran will be aware enough of that to come up with ways to block any kinds, like to basically limit any type of investment that will jeopardize our national security. I think that's why it's easier to accept. I mean, we're going to have plenty of investments opportunities from freer countries, from countries with free markets where investments are for profit. Like this is the good thing about not having state involvement as much in some countries' businesses, is because people are these are private entities and their profit motive, they have the profit motive, not like national intervene, like not like intervention motive, right? This is why investments from Western, North American, Japanese, South Korean countries, these are safer investments because people are there to make money, not to change the policies of the country. This is why the profit motive is so beautiful, because we can see what people's agendas are rather than state motivations that are basically behind the scenes and the shadows, and with like stuff that is against the national interest of the Iranian people. I think the Iranian people have their guards up a lot when it comes to China and Russia. Like, like especially with Russia, we like our history with the Soviet Union goes way back. Like the Iranian people have a lot of years of way before even the Pahlavi. Like it goes back to the Qajars. Our experience with the Russians has been very, very, very negative. And the Iranian people don't easily forgive, right? I mean, they have we have. Let me tell you, Rebecca, we're going. It's going to be a challenge for us to convince the Iranians that we need a really good relationships with the Arab countries around the Persian Gulf because of things that happened 1400 years ago. 1400 years ago. Uh, so imagine like with the Russians, like the things that the challenge, what they did to Iran goes back to the Qajars. Like this is like this is the past 100 year, like in the past 100 years we have had a really negative experience. Like the Islamic Revolution of 1979 was because of the communist influence of the Soviet Union in Iran. So, and China has been a major ally of the Islamic Republic. So So yeah, the Iranian people are very, very suspicious, and the concern I think would be the other way around. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. Would that concern also extend to the people of China? Because their main, for a long time, their main source of securing
Mm.
money and growing money was through property investments, which is why there's been such a problem with them buying up so much in cities around the world.
I saw some Chinese travelers to Iran, and they were treated very well. Like
Mm,
I follow. There's a YouTube like a traveling. There's this young woman who has a traveling YouTube channel, and she says in her videos that her favorite country to keep visiting over and over again is Iran, because no other country treats her that well. So I was so happy to see that the Iranian people's hatred for the Chinese government did not translate to a
yeah.
Chinese person being mistreated.
Well, I wasn't talking in terms of any sort of racism. I was talking in terms of the property buy-up, because that
Yeah,
is a
but
major problem around the
that's
globe.
that's what I was gonna get to. I don't. The thing is that when it comes to investments, is it's hard to separate. Like investments in mass scale is usually in line with CCP agenda, right? I don't
Mm,
see like Chinese investment money flowing as something that is easily separated from the agendas of the Chinese government, right? There's a lot of connections between big investors and big purchases and massive flow of money and what the CCP wants. So, and even if it's not connected, they're going to see it as potentially connected. So, I think that's going to be a concern, right? Because even if it's not connected at beginning, if there's a lot of Chinese people come out and take over certain areas, eventually the Chinese government will basically be able to come in and take advantage of that. So that would be
yeah,
seen with suspicion.
yep. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The reason why I'm not that worried is because whatever information that we have, I'm pretty sure the future government of Iran is also going to be aware of that. They're not just going to sit by and just let stuff like this happen. They're going to have a lot of good information, and we're already going to have a lot of wealthy people from Western countries being eager to move in, and I think they're going to have the priority. Like the Iranian government is going to give our allies, our actual allies, people from our allied countries, a priority, like Israel, United States. Yeah,
I hope so. Thank you.
yeah. Okay.
Jeffrey wanted to comment on this, as did Ali.
So she brought up a good point. You brought up a good answer. Um, she's not wrong. Yeah, it's kind of like three issues. It's not just taking out the regime; it's what comes after it, right? That's just saying. If you don't actively shape the post-regime environment, then Iran's future could be quickly hijacked by external actors, whether it's Chinese Communist Party, Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state, pick anybody. And those two are very two main perpetrators of that. They do that everywhere. Belt and Road Initiative, all this other stuff. So it breaks down to three kind of issues. So you have the immediate post-regime risk. You have a power vacuum and economic vulnerability. I'll get why Donald is. This also goes back to why he's picking the targets he's picking, right? You have China move in fast, ostensibly with emergency financing, infrastructure deals, and energy pre-purchase agreements at steep discounts. They're not doing it to help. They're showing up to lock in leverage, and that's what she's concerned about, right? Predatory trade practices. So what does that actually mean? It means like long-term contracts like the Belt and Road Initiative that would undervalue Iranian resources because the Chai Khans want the energy, right? Trade sovereignty for short-term liquidity and focus on control points like ports, energy export, and telecom and digital backbone. It's not investment. It's a quiet extraction of national control. So what do we do? And this is what Armin's talking about. And there's people working on this. So what does protecting Iran's future mean at the high level? It kind of focuses on three key areas, at least as best as I can see it. And it's in number one is to preserve their economic sovereignty, to avoid locking Iran into unequal long-term deals. Well, what does that mean? It means that we, when we pick our targets to deny the mullah regime resources, we do so in a manner that, at a max, as the maximum as we can, insulates that impact from the long-term the infrastructure that would provide Iranians the infrastructure they need for long-term recovery, right? We're not taking out the pipelines because it takes too long to build. Ensure competitive access, so multiple partners versus single point dependency. I know it speaks to Armin, although it'll probably be a strategic trade approach towards that, which is in many ways in much more beneficial to both Iranian people and their future, as well as the world in general. And that's to ensure that you have stabilization without exploitation, right? It supports honest reconstruction without ownership capture. Rebecca's not wrong about the concern. I'm just saying there's a lot of people thinking about that, Rebecca, and the fact that Armin mentioned some of those points definitely should put some of those concerns at ease, albeit I would never tell you to not take your eye off the ball because those actors will indeed try to do that. No doubt about it.
Ali, go ahead.
Nifty puts out a lot of videos on YouTube, and they have the plan, the Iran Prosperity Project, and a bunch of videos explaining what they're going to do. If you look at the finance videos, they'll actually explain that foreign investment will be severely limited, and they will choose exactly who gets to invest because there's going to be a ton of instability in the beginning with the currency and a ton of other issues. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, good additions, Ellie and
Okay,
Jeffrey.
my question was next. I guess I'll turn my camera back on.
Thank you.
Okay. This question is for both you and Mr. Jeffrey. In hindsight, I cannot even think of an example right now. I should have written this down. We have seen pieces, movement that we say, oh, that's what they were doing. Oh, so there was obviously a lot of planning going into this war with Iran, right? I'm curious. The other day I heard President Trump talk about how he bolstered the military in his first term. Nobody decided this overnight, and we very well may not have the answer to this. How long have we been planning this, though? And what I love about that is you had mentioned, someone was saying it's been 15 days or whatever. A lot of people who realistically are either anti this war or just have are too short-sighted, are thinking that something's going to buckle. This is so huge, even well beyond the Maduro situation that now we look at and see, right? Things were happening before. So what is, as of right now, kind of the furthest thing back in time that we see was a movement moving us towards this war?
So there's two answers to this because the United States for a long time has been doing practice and simulations on every single operation that you've seen. So, for example, the Strait of Hormuz being closed, they've already knew that this is something that at some point they have to deal with. They had a lot of simulations, war games, a war game scenario with the Islamic Republic, evaluating how successful they're going to be. A lot of the missiles and other military equipment that the United States has designed has specifically been with the Islamic Republic in mind. A lot of the bunker busters has been specifically designed with the Islamic Republic in mind. So when it comes to preparation, this has been been there since the past, I don't know, maybe like 4 decades. But the time that they decided to plan this specific military operation, it was been the regime change option became possible once the Americans saw and once the Israelis convinced the Americans that regime change in Iran is possible because of what we saw the Iranian people are willing to do in early January. Jeffrey, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of banged, you took some of my thunder. Well done. So there's two lines of effort. Armin talked about it and he kind of touched on it. One of the ways you can think about the planning would be to put it into two lines of effort, two buckets. The first bucket or line of effort would be the planning that is done by salaried full-time employees at like the Defense Department, Pentagon, intelligence community, State Department, et cetera, and on, right? All the different militaries, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. When Armin talked about like bunker busters or ground penetrating munitions being developed, that's actually wasn't wrong. There was something called the hard and deeply buried target and threat assessment program in the late 90s. This is when like the Mullah regime just started to bury and harden and strategically disperse all their primary assets. And then they had the hard and deeply buried defeat program, which looked on a couple of key items. One of these days, I'll have to see if I can send you some of the streamlined or redacted versions of that. I'll post some of the actual open source stuff in the chat in a minute. The other is the plans introduced by a specific like the first line happens independent of. It's both like independent of, albeit in conjunction with and directed by different administrations across all administrations. And the other one is plans that are induced by a specific administration, because specific administrations have different ideas on the world and they come with their own ideas on how to resolve those challenges, and they give out directives, and then those people say yes sir, and then carry that out, as you know. So as to where it started, the idea, Armin's not wrong with regards to that. Definitely, I have to be careful here. Let me just circle. I'll return to that in a minute. Give me a second. Hopefully, the other things give you at least something to think about. The two buckets or lines of effort. You have the salaried people. They've been doing that for like 30, 40 years. Then you have the specific directives and planning that's done. Well, planning that's done by each administration. It's pursuant to the directives that they give to those people. Does that make sense? Hopefully that made sense more when it came out of my mouth than it did in my head. Because
No, yeah, no, that makes sense.